Hi, everyone. Hi, and welcome, everybody, to our live dyeing session today. Hopefully, things are working. Oh, good. Oh, good. I just saw it come on. Welcome to the stream, everyone. I am Rebecca from Chemnitz, and today we are going to dye some Wool of the Andes roving with some pre-mixed RIT liquid dyes. I have only done this once so far, and I did this in one of the Dye Pot Weekly episodes, and I loved the results so much. I love the results, and then I was also really, really sad because I didn't get to keep the roving. I had to send it off to a sponsor. So I thought it would be fun in the live stream to set up some kettle dyeing with some of these liquid RIT colors so that way I could create some roving that maybe will be featured in a live stream in the future. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. Oh no. Okay, so I'm near a radio tower, which means that my trackpad doesn't always work on my Chromebook, where I'm trying to keep an eye on the comments. But let me know if we are experiencing any sync issues or anything like that. I know we've had some issues lately as I get used to my new glorious webcam. And I am, all right, since that seems to be working, I'm exiting on that. I don't know why it seems to be looking like the contrast is pretty low, but maybe that, yes, I'm live now. Yes, this is live, and if you're watching, then that means that you caught me, you made it. So I need to start by opening up my packets of roving. So I'm using two, I don't know what you would call these, skeins of roving. And I thought it would be fun to braid them together into a big crochet chain for this dyeing. So doing this serves two purposes. And I'm not sure with the RIT dyes how much braiding it will lead to variation of color. If I was doing this with food coloring, then whenever I've used braided roving, you end up with some darker patches and lighter patches or some breaking where the fiber is less accessible. So I'm expecting this will give us some variations of color, but I won't really know until we've finished it, until we've washed it and unravel it. The other thing I'm hoping is that by doing the crochet chain of the roving, it'll be a little easier to wash. At the end, the fibers will be a little more protected, and so that would be fun. I thought in my most recent episode of Dye Pot Weekly that I had felted the roving into oblivion, but the backer that received it was able to spin a really glorious yarn out of it. So it was just, I guess, superficial felting. But that's something that I'm still keeping an eye on for ending up with a felted mess. Oh, you can't, wait, you guys can't see anything? Is it working now? I saw some comments that people can't see anything, and my mouse isn't working. Can someone let me know if you guys can see and it's working? Okay, because I guess you went out and came back in. All right, let me know if there's any issues. Oh gosh. All right, anyway, I'm gonna get back to making my roving. Yeah, initially I was supposed to spend a day with my Jacquard acid dyes, but then Ryder, my one almost 2-year-old, didn't decide, but he ended up being sick. So we had to stay home. He had to stay home from school, which means that I do not have my kitchen to myself. Oh, it's working? Great. Oh, perfect. Okay. So I don't know if you noticed when I just started this braid, but I'm actually going to do the crochet chain with both strands of roving together. This will give us not necessarily identical roving, but it'll be closer than if I was to braid them each separately. So I'm doing just a massive crochet chain right here, which I will then put in my pot. And I'll try rotating the camera. Oh. So that way you guys can keep an eye on the pot and what's going on there. And depending on where we are with time, if there's residual dye or something, maybe we'll do something else. Oh no, should raise my arms up so you can see this glorious crochet chain that we're getting right here. It's also a nice way to keep things organized in the pot versus when I have, you know, when I just arrange things kind of randomly. Oh, one seems to be a bit longer than the other. Not a problem. All right. See how nice and orderly this braid is. All right, so now the other thing that we need to decide is what colors we are going to dye. And so I did pick up, I haven't used these ones before, but I picked up some black and teal. But I'm tempted to stick with the colors that I used last time. You can see are nicely stored in a gallon Ziploc bag back here. So the colors that I got last time are purple, of course, it's me, I love purple, gray, charcoal gray, navy, because these are two colors that are really, really hard to get with food coloring. You can do a deep blue, but navy is hard, and so is gray, because black is really, really hard with food coloring. And then I also got some fuchsia. I think that if I was always dyeing for myself, everything I did would probably be purple and gray. But I decided to pick up some pink to go a bit out of my comfort zone. Yay! Yes, I hope my goal is to encourage people. And when it comes to non-food coloring dyes, one of the reasons why, well, I've used tulip tie-dye kits for a while, but one of the reasons why I picked the RIT liquid dyes is that there's sort of like a lower level of setup that you need to do with them, just because they're already mixed, so you don't need to worry about making your own stock solutions, and you can find them at a lot of big box retailers. I have an Amazon affiliate link in the video description, but I found these at, I think, AC Moore or something similar. I also have an affiliate link to the Roving from Knit Picks. This is a roving that I dye a lot, probably the one that I've dyed the most so far on the channel. And it's the same fiber that is in the Wool of the Andes worsted weight yarn that I dye a lot, which I consider my workhorse yarn. And so I do have more of the Stroll Roving that I just spun, which I love, but I figured that I would use this one today. And actually, this all kind of looks pretty as is. I should make like a wreath or something out of it. Oh, you guys want me to do the teal and black? Well, let's start and see, because I'm not diluting the dyes first. So let's see how far things go. But maybe I'll do this, and instead of the pink, I'll bring the teal in. I'm tempted to do the navy. The last one I did was just gorgeous. All right, but don't worry, there's plenty of dye for me to do a lot of these types of videos in the future. So I think I'm going to need to get a second camera at some point, so that way you guys can still see me. But I think that we've got a pretty nice view of the pot. So now you can see I'm trying to arrange the roving so that as much of it is accessible at once as possible. Now this roving is completely dry. It's completely dry right now. I haven't pre-soaked it because I wanted to braid it. Right now I'm adding some water that I used for another pre-soak today, and this had 2 overflowing tablespoons of vinegar in it. So it's just tap water with some vinegar. And I might need to get some more water, but I figured it was worth recycling what I had used already. Okay, so if I wanted to do a true low immersion, we're pretty good for that right now, just because they're, you know, we've got fiber out of the water and the water level is really, really low. I was working on a project recently where, because of the concentration that the dyes were mixed in, it ended up being really, really difficult for me to keep the dyes from mixing, just because there was too much volume. All right, I am going to grab a bit more water, I think. Sorry that I didn't measure it. But while we're waiting for things to heat up, I also have some sneak peeks and stuff that I can show you. But actually, to this next bit of water, I'm going to add a tiny bit more vinegar, I think. Eek, I've got I'm going to buy more vinegar. I had gone through a whole gallon in the last year. So that shows just how much dyeing I've been doing. But I use mostly just distilled white vinegar. I buy the store brand. At some point, I want to do a few videos using some citric acid. I mean, when I dye with Kool-Aid, I'm obviously using citric acid, but I haven't used dry citric acid for the purpose of dyeing yet. Oh, so I'll talk about that in just a sec. Let's make sure I've read the question properly. Okay. Yeah, when I like to have, if not covering, I like to have enough water so that things are, you can see that, like, I can push down and be covered in water, but then there's still some space, because we definitely do not want anything to burn. I think I still might add a tiny bit more water to the pot, just to make me feel a little safer. I know some people will do low immersion dyeing where they'll heat up the water with the yarn and then remove it from the heat to when they add the dyes. So that's pretty nice. You put your vinegar in a mason jar and scoop it out with a measuring spoon. That would be a good way of preventing overflow. I personally don't, I tend to be more, like when you ask someone for a recipe and then they give you, like, oh, a dash of this, a pinch of that. I started trying to measure things more so that way it would be a little more reproducible. But, all right, and I've got my pan here in case I need to put anything. Oh, right, I want to point out, these red liquid dyes are not food safe. I am using a dedicated dye pot that I use only for dyeing. I don't cook in this. And so I've got some other special, like, even though I was just using the vinegar, when I'm dyeing with things that aren't food coloring, I use all dishes and tools that I use for things without food. And I try to avoid mixing stuff so that way I can keep it separate. Yeah, I also need to try using my crock pot at some point. But why is the contrast actually looks kind of low? Someone needs to swap to citric acid because, oh no, I'm having mouse troubles again, so I'm losing the comments. Oh, because your husband doesn't like the smell of vinegar? Yeah, I don't mind the smell of vinegar too much, thankfully. Can you... Oh, you want to see something that I make with some of the stuff I dye? Yeah, I can show something right now, actually. I think I've got unless I left my hat in the car. So I've shown this hat a few times, but this is a hat that I made with the first 100% wool yarn I ever dyed. I hand painted some palette yarn using some food coloring and Kool-Aid. And so I kind of did a gradient from blue to yellow with all the greens in between. And this dyeing project doesn't have a video, but the the yarn that I used is on my website, chemknits.com. And so I dyed it specifically with, well, a pair of mittens in mind. I'll grab the mittens in a second. But I really wanted to do something with black because I like the stained glass look. And my notes, and this pattern was not one of my designs, but it's free. And the slight modifications I did for the fit are on my website as well. But these are the mittens that I did with the yarn as well. And so I love colorwork mittens. I wish I had more time for these on like the smallest needles possible, but and I love the way that the gradient came out on this thumb. It made me really, really happy. Oh, the colors aren't showing. So the colors look a lot better on my camera than they do over here. Let's see. What? Oh, that's audio. Properties. I'm trying to see if I can change the. I need more contrast. Well, that just looks strange. Oh, and it's not necessarily coming through. Let's see. I don't even know if that changed anything that's coming through on the stream. Oh, maybe everything that I'm doing. Oh, no, it did. Ha! Okay, I'm seeing the latency. Yeah, I'm dialing it back from that. This is what happens when I see things on a delay. All right, let's see if that helps anything. Because it's still just seeming a little like muted to me. Yeah, the roving look turned orange when when I was doing that. I'd love to see something knit with the broken violet. The thumbnail for this video had a gradient of broken violet that I did. Okay, okay, that's actually getting nice and warm. We're ready to start adding some dye. The DNA that's in the thumbnail is a gradient that I did with just broken violet on a pre-knit blank that I made myself. So, all right, I'm putting my gloves back on. And another thing I want to point out, you may have noticed that I'm wearing all black today. That is because these RIT dyes are all-purpose dyes. They work for, let's see if I can bring this closer. They work with silk, cotton, linen, wool, rayon, nylon. That means that we need to be careful because if I spill it on myself, I'm going to dye my clothing. So, all right, let's add some purple first. Okay. Actually, I should shake it. Oh yeah, I have my nice little pan right here. That's handy. Okay. Now, I have never poured concentrated RIT directly into a dye pot before. I diluted it maybe 1 to 3 last time. So we'll start with a little bit, and then we can always add some more. So hopefully the colors, there's some navy, the colors will spread out some. But actually, oh, I need to reduce the heat. We don't want things to be bubbling too much. Okay, that was navy. I forgot to shake. It's funny, I'm always paranoid with tie-dye as well. Whenever I'm adding it to, like, mixing up the dye, I'm afraid of the powder, not because I'm concerned about inhalation or anything, but because I worry about it getting everywhere. So that shows where my priorities lie. Ooh, that navy is so pretty. Might need to add some more of the navy. All right, I'm shaking up since you guys requested this teal. oh, it doesn't have a, I was expecting a piece of paper that I was going to need to pull off, and there wasn't one. Just FYI. Add some teal. Oh. I love seeing just the way that the dye kind of moves. And so I'm going to let this set for a little bit, and then I think I might use my, this is technically a fish turner, but then I can use it to kind of manipulate the roving a bit to kind of help some of the dye spread out. So I believe that these RIT dyes contain a mixture of acid dyes, or maybe they don't have acid dyes and they just have fiber reactive dyes. Although I don't know if fiber reactive dyes typically need acid, so that's why I don't really know. But they aren't a dye that's going to exhaust completely, because especially when put in solution, some of the molecules, they degrade a bit. So you might still see the color, but you're not going to see you might still see the color, but you won't really be able to see, it won't be able to bind to the yarn anymore. And I'm having, those colors aren't, well, I guess they look kind of dark on my end as well. Maybe because this is making the brightness. No, not quite. Let's see. Oh, lots of questions. Okay, so you loom knit and sometimes dye your yarn. Oh, it's my pleasure to do what I do. Yeah, I think that I like trying to show all of the steps because I want to make things feel as accessible as possible for all of you. Do you think I would ever dye enough yarn to use in the yoke of a sweater? Oh, that's an interesting idea. Who was it? Someone shared recently a magic article where someone dyed yarn for the yoke of a sweater so that way you ended up with exactly equal stripes. And it was absolutely breathtaking. The math involved in doing that yarn and thinking about the size of the sweater, I just think is unreal and amazing. So, but I think it would really depend on the sweater pattern and everything for the amount of yarn needed for a yoke. I'm not sure how many yards you need for that. I haven't done, oh gosh, so I did a sweater that had a yoke, a short sleeve sweater, and I don't remember how much yarn I had to use for the top of it. Actually, both of my sweaters had yokes that were mine. So yeah, I mean, I would be way more likely to dye yarn for the yoke of a sweater than for an entire sweater. Although dyeing the yarn for an entire sweater is something that has been requested for this channel. And to be honest, I'm nervous with the idea of dyeing yarn for a whole sweater because I think I could do 4 or 5, not in this pot. If I use my canning pot, I could maybe do 500 grams of fiber at once, but more than that would be pretty hard. So for the yoke would probably be easier, exactly, because the yoke you could have something asymmetric and that would look really, really cool, whereas, oh gosh, I didn't even note the time of how long I've had the fiber in there. Oh well. Since the yoke could be totally asymmetric and then you could use a solid or semi-solid for the rest of the sweater, that actually would be really, really wonderful. 1 to 200 yards is normal for a yoke. Well, goodness, that would just be 1 skein of worsted weight yarn, or certain, if you're using a thinner weight yarn. So yeah, I mean, if that's 200 grams of yarn max, then there's no question that I would be able to do that. Right, it's like the chest and shoulder, but done almost in a circle. No, I've done the Shalom cardigan, and I forget the name of the other cardigan I did, but both of them had yoked tops just because I think that it was a bit easier to do the fit. without having to worry about shoulder seams on myself. Have you ever spun the yarn before you've dyed it? Not exactly. I potentially with a mini skein. So there was a Kickstarter that someone was doing for single breed yarns. Gosh, this was probably at least 4 years ago or so. And so she sent me a bunch of her hand spun yarns, and I dyed a bunch of little mini butterflies of a bunch of different breeds just to show how they all took up food coloring. And so that was the one time I've dyed yarn that, and I might have spun, you added some of the yarn that I dyed to that. At some point I will dye, well, I have plans to ply some commercial single ply yarn with some silk thread and then dye it. So that would be probably the first thing that I spun that I dyed. But otherwise, I really prefer to dye the roving before spinning versus after because of the way you can get the colors to twist. So the color saturation, well, I don't think the color saturation would really be the same necessarily. It could be totally fine, but if you think about the way that a sock blank dyes, where some of the yarn is a little more accessible than the rest and you can get some tonal shifts, that might be the case in some hand spun yarns as well. Because I know, at least for me personally, my hand spun yarn is denser than the equivalent thickness of a commercial weight yarn. And I don't think that's necessarily the case for all spinners. I just am not very good at getting really, really small yet. All right, I'm coming in and taking a picture because, you can see my phone. Haha, because I think that looks pretty cool. I like the way that the purple is reading almost a little pink. I probably should have measured the amount of dye, but I was curious about the mess. Oh no. Not being able to use the mouse is really, really, really hard. Oh dear. Oh dear. Another notification come up. Someone said, so I've had some requests to do some live knitting, and so one of the regulars just commented that she didn't mean literally watch me knit. But that's something that I would be happy to play around with at some point. So now you can see I'm using this turner kind of poking at the fiber to sort of spread out the colors a little bit. But since the water level is pretty low, the colors probably won't mix too much. I am curious about how much penetration and stuff we'll have at the bottom. But yeah, when I was going to consider, oh goodness, it looks very, very dark for y'all. Let me see if I can increase the brightness so you can see better. Because the colors still, to me, look very distinct. Properties. Oh, I still have access to this. Okay. Let's increase the brightness. Nope, that's not helping. Let's try the exposure. There we go. There we go. Now you can see a bit better. Okay, that's better. That's much closer to what I am seeing. And again, it's hard to know really. I'm going to set a timer, I think, for 20 minutes. It's hard to know how long to really leave the dye in the pot, just because I had to take a picture for myself. It's a little hard to know how long to leave the dye in the pot just because it doesn't clear. You saw when I pushed with the salad spinner how much dye there is just in the pot. And so that's just something to be aware of. when you're doing this. Personally, I do prefer food coloring a bit, just because since the dyes do exhaust, then you know when it's done. You can be satisfied when you've hit, it's easy to be satisfied if you got the color you wanted when there's no dye left in the pot. It's a lot harder when, when you don't know what's coming out. And actually, let me try seeing how that looks on your end. How long does it generally take to wash the RIT dye out of the fiber? Not that long necessarily. I think it depends on the fiber type. In the other Dye Pot Weekly episodes that I've done, okay, I think that level looks closer to what I am seeing. Maybe a tiny bit overexposed, but the pot, I guess, is getting a little less light than the rest of my stove area. Yeah, my hand. So when I tried dyeing acrylic yarns with these liquid RIT dyes, that took forever to rinse out. It felt like a gazillion washes. When I did the immersion dyeing with Roving, that did not take quite as long. That was not as bad as that was not quite as bad as I had expected. So more than one rinse. It takes a lot more than the acid dyes, but I did kind of slow, like I'd soak it in some water and then wait a bit. And so with the Roving, I try to go very slowly and very carefully, but I loved the final colors that we ended up with in the first one. So I am really, really excited about this. The next shipment of Roving I get, you want to do low immersion space dyeing? Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, I guess one of my other favorite techniques is to have a pot of Wilton's Violet and then add the Roving in a braid, whether dip dyeing it or adding it directly, just because of the way that the colors break, and I think it just looks absolutely beautiful. I'm tempted because I know we're going to have leftover dye in the pot. So depending on the timing and whether or not Ryder is still asleep, then I have some other yarn here that I could potentially do some dip dyeing. Because that's not something that I've done with RIT yet. I've hand painted and steamed it, or I've done the immersion dyeing. I haven't done a mixture. Yeah. But I thought it would also be fun to show some sneak peeks. The exposure might be off because literally, I guess we're now watching, well, it's not boiling, but we're watching a pot boil. Unlike some of the other, unlike acid dyes or something where we might be able to watch it spread, I guess not a lot is going on there right now. But, so here, we are way overexposed. Okay, let me bring the exposure back to normal. Okay, here is some yarn that my baby dyed with me today. I haven't washed it yet, but I gave him some food coloring in these brushes, in these bottles that had sponge brushes at the top. And then he was dabbing the yarn and adding color. Now, it took a lot of self-control to not finish the yarn and add color to the rest of it. He did maybe about 50% of the color application and I did the rest. But, and so 1-year-olds can dye yarn too. All right, Ryder's going to turn 2 this weekend, so he's only 1 as a technicality, but this was a really, really fun project for us to do together. It makes me super nervous to try RIT dyes because of so much washing. Yeah, when you use the RIT dyes with the fibers they are intended to be used on, then it's not as bad. So the worst washing experiences that I have had were when I used the RIT Dye More for synthetic dyes on natural fibers. That took a lot of washing. It dyed the natural fibers beautifully, but the amount of washing required was just ridiculous. And then when I dyed the synthetic, like the 100% acrylic yarn, which you're not supposed to dye with these RIT Dye-More dyes. Or, no, sorry, not, you're supposed to use the Dye-More. You're not supposed to use these dyes for acrylic. I mean, I think it even says, oh, funny, this one doesn't. They all have different, see, this one gives recommendations on what to do and what to add, and some of the others, interesting. So the navy says the fiber types that you should use it on and has a little more instructions, but they definitely say somewhere, not recommended for synthetic fibers, acrylic, acetate, or fabrics containing more than 35% polyester. And since it's overexposed, you can't read that. So me having it on camera is a little bit moot. Yeah, so ultimately, it can take a while, but we'll see when I'm watching this. When I film like the recap of what the dry fiber and stuff looks like, I'll let you know how annoyed I am at washing it. But I will say that I loved the result enough that I wanted to try it again, which is good because I kept the RIT dyes. I didn't just toss them in the trash. So I would love to see you dye yarn with the boys using water balloons, fill them with dye and throw them in the yard or roving when it's pinned to a board. Kat, have you suggested that before? I feel like I've seen that suggestion before from someone, and that absolutely terrifies me. It absolutely terrifies me to both trying to fill water balloons with food coloring. Although I guess I have like a beverage dispenser type water balloon filler, so maybe that's not quite as bad. But still, it terrifies me to give my children or my husband or my friends water balloons filled with food coloring. Because don't forget, your skin is protein as well. So there's no way you would come out of that with anything but being dyed all over. Now, maybe this is something that, I mean, if I had better aim, something that I could try myself. But I don't trust a lot of the other people I know with it. Yeah. Okay, so you have suggested that before. Yeah, I was like, wait a minute. That was a real deja vu moment for me. I think I love the idea of, doing like a Jackson Pollock kind of thing with yarn. They actually did a whole at my son's preschool, they did a whole artist unit one year, and they made these like gorgeous, gorgeous paintings. And you could tell that they were doing something because he came home with paint on his shoes. But even so, doing something that exuberant that is intended to dye fibers makes me nervous. I'm going to turn up the heat a bit. And let's actually take a peek. I need my like dye pot spoons. Whoa, that burped. Okay, so you can see, can you? Yeah. I want to make sure that it comes through on the stream color, but there's still a nice amount of purple. And then, how much of a delay am I watching on? Wow, my delay is actually pretty significant. Okay, so that was the gray. The navy actually doesn't seem like there's as much dye, and then the teal, there's a lot of teal over here as well. I'm curious. Oh yeah, there's tons and tons of dye. Ooh, did you see that? I kind of pulled apart part of the braid. It looked like, yeah, see that white? That's cool. A lot of times, I get torn when it comes to white in the dye pot. Sometimes I get disappointed, and when I'm hand painting, I usually try to avoid leaving white sections. But sometimes having white left over, especially in roving that you're going to spin, is really cool when you have really dark colors and really pale colors and get some really nice twists. Hi, I'm I guess I'm technically, so I hesitate, I don't know why I always hesitate to say American, because there's other people that live in the Americas that don't live in the United States, but I'm from the United States. I'm a Massachusettsian. Massachusettsian? I don't know. Sibling, good to know. Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. Some spoilers, guys. Yesterday, I made a bunch of stock solutions with acid dyes. I filmed 3 of them as I was doing, and there's a 4th one that I sort of wish I was filming because all of a sudden the dye crashed out and it got kind of jelly-like. But then when I added some more hot water, I believe it's still in solution. I haven't double checked, but if I end up with the jello from my Jacquard Sun Yellow, I'll let you guys know. But I did film since it was like the first time that I was trying it. But, you know, as I mentioned before, my day of dyeing with these dye stocks was interrupted because since Ryder's home, I wanted to only do something that I can keep away from him. And so using the stove, I can keep this roving away from the kids, you know, and keep, yeah, because I just wouldn't want them to spill it anywhere. I shudder to think what this dye would do to my wood floors. It would be fun, but I couldn't see why you wouldn't want to be pink or purple for a long while following the balloon incident. Hey, Kat, you know what? Why don't you try it? And then when you're totally pink and purple, you can come be a guest star in the live stream and talk about your experience dyeing with water balloons. Tell me how it goes, and then I'll try it. Normally, it's funny. Normally, I would try to, like, when I get suggestions, I like to try to do things myself a lot. I think you guys know that. Like, as soon as I get a suggestion, then it's sometimes like I go and I try to do it because I get so excited. But that one, that one seems riskier. And I'm still cracking up. Okay, there's 7 more minutes, and then I think I'll probably remove the fiber, hopefully without making too much of a mess out of things. And then I think I'll probably add some water to the dye pot, see how much dye is left in here, and we can try doing some dip dyeing because I'm curious what we would get. Yeah, so I'm just so excited to play with the acid dyes. Oh, right, but I'm sorry, I got totally distracted. When it comes to white in the fiber, you know, I sort of like it in roving. And when it happens, in some of the videos coming up, there's some white patches left behind. And sometimes it really excites me because it says something about the technique and how quickly the dye binds to the yarn. Like I did a technique with both the Stroll fingering yarn and the Wool of the Andes worsted weight yarn. And the results, like the dye just penetrated the 100% wool yarn so deeply, and there were a lot more white patches in the other yarn. And that always just excites me because that's sort of, you know, I don't think it was until I started doing more of these live streams that it really hit me that the superwash content probably has something to do with this. So I do have an experiment coming up that I want to do, and I plan to use 3 skeins of yarn. The Wool of the Andes worsted, untreated, 100% wool, the superwash version of the same yarn, and then the Stroll fingering yarn. So, yeah, I see one of the best times of day because of lighting and kids' schedules for me to do live streams is in the middle of the day. So I think I get a lot of Europe and Canada on the live streams, which I think is awesome. It's awesome. Yeah, my brother and sister-in-law live in the UK, so I think a lot about what time it is over there because when we try to figure out whether or not we can call them or not. Excuse me. All right. Yeah, so the yarn that I have for dip dyeing, I have some Stroll fingering that I have pre-soaked. And oh yeah, don't forget that we added I didn't pre-soak this roving. I added it to the pot dry in its braid. And oh, I'm so excited to see it. Pin roving to a board, balloons with dye around it, and throw darts. Ooh, Lush, that sounds like a fun idea. Or, I mean, if you're a little more risk adverse and you don't have darts, you could just go and then poke it with pins. But maybe you want to put a poncho on first. Or attach a pin, again, if you don't have any darts, you could kind of like tie a pin to a pole. So then you could jab it more, kind of like a dart, so you would get more of the force. Yes, and remember to still wear a back. Hey, or wear a poncho. You guys are awesome. Okay, how about another sneak peek? There's 3 minutes left in the 20 minutes, but let me, oh dear, that's too dark, too dark. It's new for me to be able to adjust, okay, that's a good color. It's new for me to be able to adjust the settings kind of on the fly. I like it. Okay, so this is some yarn. You can see it's a hand, can you see? Maybe I need to, oh. There we go. It's a hand-wound ball, and I dyed it in a mixture of Wilton's Violet and Delphinium Blue. And so this is one I still need to unravel, but it's kind of fun to like peek in towards the center, and it starts to get blue at some point. So I'm really excited for this one. I might potentially do a live stream while I unwind it, or else I'll do a time lapse or something while I'm unraveling it. But forget now what maybe this was the top, because the bottom had just some cool color stuff as well. I did this a couple days ago. When I have to unwind something that I dyed, I like to give it some time to dry a bit before I start winding it onto the niddy noddy. So if I do it too early on, then it just ends up flinging water everywhere. So I may as well take advantage of the dry weather and do that. Oh, I just saw the fence needed sprucing up. Are you going to try to tint your fence with some food coloring? The nice thing about food coloring is that whenever I like spill some on the floor, it wipes straight up. And the same with the acid dyes. I accidentally I was like trying to dissolve the red into a cup, and it splashed and someone on the floor, and I was like, oh no! But it wiped straight up, because obviously there's like a sealant on the floors, but also just with wood, I don't know, I felt lucky, let me put it that way. You'll put roving on it too. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But yeah, sorry, this one is a big weighting type one, and I was hoping it would be a little more visually exciting to see the colors spread, but I needed to do something today that way if the kid woke up, I could quickly end the stream and go and get him. Poor guy. You wouldn't even realize that he was sick, except that he had a temperature. And so when I had to pick him up slightly early from school yesterday. And poor guy. But since he was home with me and Lucas wasn't here, that's why we were able to dye some yarn together. Because since it was just the two of us. Because I know if I was going to try to dye yarn with Ryder and Lucas was here, Lucas would want to be front and center, and then it would be about Lucas and not about Ryder. Oh, you've done that with a sheet? Hanging up a sheet on a clothesline and then throwing water balloons with food coloring at it? But then if it was a cotton sheet, then the color didn't really stay. Was it just kind of something that you did for fun? Or was it more, you used clothes? Huh. that would be fun. I've always wanted, whenever I use a paper towel and wipe up my dye surfaces, I always think that the tie-dye effect looks really beautiful and wish that I could, you know, I need some like wool cloths to dye that way. Oh, or actually, I could just use a bare skein of yarn to wipe up my messes. That's an interesting idea. I should consider that. All right, so we've had a long, long time in the pot, and I'm now going to try to remove the roving. We'll turn off the heat for this part, I suppose. I'm going to try to remove the roving without dyeing myself. Okay, that actually doesn't sound so good. Without dyeing my skin a different color. All right, so I've got these tools. All right. Let's try to pick this up. Oh gosh, this is heavy. This is really heavy. We'll let some of the dye run off. There is a lot of color left in there. So I think I got a total of 3 tablespoons of vinegar in here. That's not as much as what is recommended, I think. I think that they recommend, I don't know, the proportions from the writ instructions seem odd. Always have seemed odd to me. Okay. All right. Ooh. So when I said I wasn't sure if we'd have paler sections as dark as all that looked, let me pull this up so you can see it. And we're still nice and warm, so I don't want to agitate this too much. But we've got some really dark colors from where we added the dye. But then it looks like we've got a lot of nice paler sections as well. So that is really exciting for me. And whoa, what color is that? That almost looks like rust. So I think that that's really cool. This is a pan I picked up at the dollar store because normally I will remove things from the pot and just put it on a plate. But I didn't want to get that many dye-safe plates. Yeah, the white patches I think are amazing. Yeah, I think this will be absolutely beautiful and spun. And Shy, I wasn't trying to give you a hard time. I think that it would be a lot of fun to I think that sounds like a really fun project, especially if it was something that would wash out. Okay, so now we actually have a reasonable amount of water left in here. And it looks pretty blue. See, the color actually looks nice and blue. Hopefully that wasn't too much of a splash. So I'm going to turn this heat back on and let's do some dip dyeing. You want to spin it? Yeah, that's how I felt with the last one that I did with the similar technique. I just thought it was stunning, and I was so sad to send it away, which actually happens a bit more than you might think, that I start to feel sad about leaving the yarn. When I was filling out some of these Kickstarter rewards, some of the first ones were so hard for me to do. I just really wanted, I mean, when I was sending out like 50 things all at once, it went so fast. I was like, oh, I didn't say goodbye to the yarns. Yeah, I think that this is one that I will probably, this is a good candidate for me doing my live. It's a candidate for me trying to get thinner in my spinning. And so I really probably should get a second camera so that way I can do a 2-camera setup. It would be nice if that way I could, well, as things are heating up, I can move the camera so you guys can see me at least. I think a little higher. Yeah, I've been wanting to, yeah, I'm in frame. I've been wanting to, it would be nice if that way there's a camera I could talk into while showing what's going on with the surface without having to be zoomed back enough for you to see the entire room. And so that's something that I am hoping to work on more. And so part of this live stream is I'm still learning the new camera and the new system. I like that I can adjust the settings kind of on the fly, but it is a bit harder for me to manage all that at the same time. Yeah, no, I think that this roving is the candidate for the next live spin series. All right. And so I don't really use my salad spinner with, I don't have a dedicated non-food salad spinner yet. So I'm just wringing this out by hand. And this yarn, so this is the Stroll Fingering superwash, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon yarn. That is one of my favorites to dye. I have not yet tried this one with RIT. So I'm kind of excited to see how it might turn out. But this is right now is only been pre-soaked and in just plain water. But there is vinegar in our dye bath. I'm just waiting to get some bubbles before I start dip dyeing. Because one of the instructions I read had you steam the yarn with the RIT for 40 minutes. And that really felt like overkill to me because I felt like something, you just didn't need that much time with it. That, because usually I will do, if I am steaming, maybe 20 minutes, but 40 minutes just felt almost unreasonably long. But again, this is maybe only the third time I've ever used these dyes. So I'm still learning. Yeah, picture in picture would be really nice. I could probably do it with the laptop, but it would be hard for me to have the laptop in a position so that way I could easily look at it and then also be close enough to it. So maybe I'll try with the laptop first, but it'd be hard to manage to not have, for me to stay in frame when I'm like moving around and stuff. I mean, ideally I'd have something up, a camera on the microwave or something. That would be the easiest. Yeah. But I am really, really excited with this fiber. And so the reason why some of the colors end up looking so dark and saturated is that we were adding some of the dye straight. But, you know, I've dyed, these bottles are all still more than half full. They say to use 1 bottle for 2 pounds of fabric. And so 2 pounds of fabric would be maybe 8 skeins of yarn-ish. Okay, why? Focus camera. Okay. Yeah, so this dye, like a little bit, goes a really long way. And so these will last me for a while. All right. We are bubbling back in our dye pot. Okay. I'm going to reduce the heat and we are going to do some dip dyeing. I might regret that that I didn't add more water, but we will see. Ooh, that's a really, really pretty teal. It's funny that that's the like color that remained out of this. So yeah, this is really going to be a test because I'm not sure just how much like you'll even notice right away, but actually that's looking pretty gradient-y to me. The real question, I guess, will be how much of the dye washes out. Ooh, this is getting heavy. Yeah, the real question will be how much of this dye washes out versus how much stays in. Because normally, like if I was dip dyeing to break violet or something, I'd stop sort of sooner. But, oh, do you see that? It almost looks like the water is starting to clear. Do you see that? Now that, my friends, is cool. Okay. That is awesome. Look at that. Can you tell? The dye bath is actually starting to clear. So I've been dip dyeing in, and you know, I thought that I was going to have to dip dye and like remove it out of the pot because the colors, if I put the whole thing in, then we would end up with a pretty solid color. But like, look, the dye is exhausting. That's amazing. That's incredible. All right, so achievement unlocked. You can dip dye yarn in the RIT dyes and get a gradient. I don't know how much heat you really need because it seemed like the color was binding to the yarn really, really, really fast. So just like with food coloring or something. So maybe not that much time is needed. But I guess this is going to need some more experimentation going further. Oh, that is awesome. I don't even know how long this has been in the pot, but yeah, I can't believe it that we're actually clearing. Let's see. We've actually basically cleared this dye bath. That's fantastic. Ah. It's nice to know that at some point you could use all the dye from these RIT systems. And so maybe this is why when I was doing the other roving, it really wasn't as bad to rinse it all out as I had thought, because it just kind of, it binds really, really nicely to the fiber. I wish it said more about what it is, what kind of dye it is, but you can buy, so these are, I'm using the pre-mixed liquid RIT dyes today. And one of the main reasons why I selected these is I thought that they would be a bit more accessible than, than the powders, because if I was going to make a stock solution, not everyone has the space or the setup or the desire to do that. But with these bottles, you open it up, you pour, maybe you dilute it first, and you're ready to go. So I thought that that would be a bit of an easier way to deal with this. But I am so excited that we have cleared. This means, you know what this means? This means that this one is going to be awesome to wash because most of the dye is like already coming into the fiber. So that's just awesome. Now the reason why I still have it in the pot is because I'm not sure how much heat is really needed. The directions for steaming with hand painting with the RITs did say 40 minutes, which, you know, seemed excessive to me, but I guess if you're dyeing a lot of fabric or something, you might need more time for the heat to penetrate. I don't really know. So I'm actually probably, again, I didn't really set a timer, so I don't know how long this has been in the pot, but oh, I am beyond excited. And hey, here's another reason to, like, you know, try to see, and then you can play around with leftover dye that's in your pot. With food coloring, if I end up with leftover dye, I always try to do something with it because I know that it can be used. But this is awesome. And check out these colors. You know, I think that more than teal, because this probably has gray and some purple in it, this looks like what I would expect from the denim blue color. But that's clear, you guys. I am going to remove this and turn off the heat. That is amazing. I am so excited right now. Oh, yeah. Oh, but look at that. That's beautiful and hot. Okay, I turned off the heat. Let's see. I'm just going to try to move the camera over so we can go to our finished yarns. And here we go. Things are set up pretty tightly in in my kitchen. There we go. Oh man, we really do have, that's hot, a nice gradient here with the deep. It is more of a teal than a denim blue. There's definitely some green to it, but oh, I'm in love. This is one of my favorite colors ever. And I think that it is deeper than some of these other teals that we see over here. So this definitely has a lot more blue in it than, say, this green that's in our roving, which I really shouldn't be playing with too much. But okay, we have some white sections, but a lot of them look like almost like a pale gray. Oh, I'm so excited to rinse this. And I think it's too bad that the depths of these pinks, like that's a fuchsia. And I didn't even use the fuchsia. I used the purple. So maybe I still haven't really explored to see if there's breaking of the purple with these RIT dyes or not. That is something that I guess I will have to play around with. And clearly I need to do more dip dyeing with these RIT dyes. So the nice thing, again, about the Jacquard acid dyes and the RIT dyes and things like that is that they come in such a wide variety of pre-mixed colors already. So you could, you could buy exactly the shade that you want and try to go off of that. Or you could buy primary colors and maybe some secondaries and try to mix your own shades. So that means that you have a lot more possibilities. I think that with having fewer colors to start with in terms of food coloring, it can be, Wilton has a huge variety of colors, but I still think that it's a bit harder to mix them for when it comes to dyeing yarn, just because the proportions that are recommended are really for dyeing icing and cakes and whatnot. Whereas there's a lot of people that have worked out a lot of formulas for how to mix the dyes and how much to use to achieve a specific color. And so I'm really at just the tip of exploring these non-food coloring dyes. I think my preference might still be food coloring, even though I enjoy getting these really deep colors. But yeah, do you think it would work to dye the yarn while twisted in a skein and then retwist and over dye? Yes. I have a couple videos of that on the channel right now. I did that twice. Once with some Wilton's Violet food coloring, which I think I used way too much Wilton's Violet because I didn't really see much breaking, which shocked me at the time. But so I twisted the skeins and I did that with Wilton's Violet, and I did one that I don't remember if I used Easter egg tablets or just food coloring, and I used I think I used like yellow and red and maybe orange around it. And so when the skein is twisted, you get white in the center, at least when it comes to food coloring and the stroll fingering yarn, which absorbs the color so fast. I think that if you were to do that with with 100% wool yarn, then maybe the colors wouldn't strike as fast. So let me actually see if I can find those videos, because I have those. Let me see. Cabinets twisted game YouTube. All right. So the first one. All right. So the first time I did space dye it with the Easter egg tablets. And that is, I'm going to drop that link in right now. And so you can get a sense of the delay based on when my comment comes through and when I mention it. And here is the Wilton's Violet one coming in a minute. I think this is the Wilton's Violet one. Oh no. Oh dear. I don't know what it just did. It changed my windows and stuff. Oh, sometimes it's good that you can't see me right now. I'll put the camera back on me so that way I can chat as like we're headed to the sign off. But you guys, this is awesome. uh, okay, the one issue with having the camera so high, so the camera's up high, so that way you could see the stove and the pots and stuff. But now that I'm over here, I can't look, like, if I'm going to look for comments, I have to really look down. Um, yeah, no, save those. I haven't figured out the best way, because right now there's so many dying videos. I haven't figured out the best way to really organize them, because there's a lot of different techniques. And I think that I might make, some playlists for just like RIT dyes and acid dyes. And I have some for tie-dye kits, but I'm trying to like group things to make it easier to look more into a specific technique. Oh, maybe I can, there, go back to the exposure that it wanted me to have. It's really hard with the phone. At least I can see when a new comment pops up, so that's a bit easier for me to respond to. Oh, I suppose, hey, you know what I can do? Da 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 da. I can pop down onto there. Now you guys can see me, and I can see the comments. Do you guys have any other questions or anything you'd like me to address before I sign off? Oh no. Except, of course, the Chromebook doesn't like the mouse right there. Oh my gosh, this is embarrassing. I will get this worked out. I probably do need to just deal with two cameras, and that might make things easier. But yeah, let me know if you guys have any other questions or anything, and I will try to answer those before I sign off. So today we dyed, I guess, 300 grams of fiber. We space dyed 200 grams of 100% wool roving, the wool of the Andes roving from Knit Picks. And my affiliate link to that roving is in the description. And actually I will, well, okay, maybe my mouse isn't behaving right now. This is all because of the radio tower. And clearly I have the Chromebook placed someplace where, and like I lost even the comments. This is why I should not be trying to scroll. And now I'm just trying to like get back. There we go. How long will it stay in the pot? You lost something in the stream. Oh gosh, I guess sorry, I've gone up to way old comments. It stayed in the pot from maybe 30 minutes. Sorry guys. All right. Oh no, that is a new question. Oh, hi Marie. Yeah, I saw a comment of yours pop up on another video as this was going on. And okay, I am getting beyond frustrated with the Chromebook. I'm going to try to pull this back up on the laptop. So I was trying to like have the comments not where I was watching, but way they. Wow, this is like making it not so easy for me to get to the stream so I can see the comments. You guys. Okay. Let's see if I can get, yeah, so it stayed, the roving that I dyed stayed in the pot for about, yeah, probably about half an hour or so. And then the dip dyed roving that I just did was only in there for 5-10 minutes, not very long. When will my acid dye videos come out? Here, I'm moving this again to the computer that is working. So that is a bit better. Not that I can see. Okay. Oh, sorry. There's like sunlight or something. when will the acid dye videos come out? Those will start coming out sometime in February. I have Dye Pot Weekly episodes scheduled through the end of January, although I might double up one on a week, but beginning of February I think is the soonest that they would come out, because I'm trying to keep things somewhat in order. And yeah, so, oh yes, what I was trying to do, ooh, the stream status is bad. Oh, I'm sorry, I have no idea. Oh, maybe that was a notification a while ago. I don't know. You guys, this is oh, I froze? Am I still frozen? Or am I still frozen, or am I still here? Okay, let me see if I am still frozen. Oh no, it doesn't look like I'm frozen. So, but I don't know how far behind I am. Okay, but anyway, I was going to copy into the chat. In the chat, I just added my affiliate link for the Bear Wool of the Andes roving. And yeah, that's the roving that I dyed at the beginning of the stream. And then I dyed the stroll fingering, which I didn't add a link to, but here's the stroll fingering yard that we dip dyed, which is so cool. And so that's another one of my favorites. But yeah, so you don't, but Knitpicks is having 40% off books right now. And so that might be something worth checking out. But otherwise, there's not a special sale on Bear yarn or anything right now. But you should still pick some up so you can dye along with me. Oh, it was while I was switching. Yeah, because I had to open the browser on the computer that I'm streaming from, which I think caused some of my lag issues in the past. But actually, I do need to head out because Ryder woke up. And so thank you, baby, for waiting for me to finish up before you woke up. But I really appreciate all of you joining me, especially as I'm still, figuring out this camera and the settings and working through all that and trying to figure out how to best see your comments while I'm interacting with you. So that's something that I still need to figure out a bit. I don't think that there's a different affiliate link for the UK as the US. I have no idea if I get credit for UK sales or not, but it's certainly worth a shot. Yeah. Yes, I get credit for whatever you purchase from Knitpicks. It doesn't matter if you order what I'm linking to. I try to link to the most relevant product, but I get credit for encouraging the sales. So I appreciate that. Oh, goody. Yeah. I will let you guys know how things go. I am really excited and fingers crossed that Ryder has no fever tomorrow, which means he can go to school on Friday. So then I can start actually dyeing with the acid dyes. Although I also have to do things like, make his birthday shirt and stuff for his birthday this weekend. But anyway, I really should sign off. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you guys have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll do some, and hope that I can inspire you to try some dyeing of yarn and roving yourself. See you guys soon. Bye.